Hey there, friends and running fans. This is Amby Burfoot welcoming you to the latest episode of the podcast, Running State of the Sport.
And this is George Hirsch, your co-host of Running State of the Sport. In every episode, we talk to the smartest, most informed, most influential, and sometimes fastest runners on the planet.
This week we talk with Dathan Ritzenhein, one of the most influential American runners of the past quarter century. From high school to college to his professional running days, Dathan has done it all.
That includes his last 5 years as coach of the On Athletic Club OAC Elite Running Team out in Boulder, Colorado. Starting from scratch, Dathan has built a team of runners that this year won the steeplechase gold medal in the Tokyo World Championships. That was Geordie Beamish, of course, and then set a big course record in the female division, winning it in the New York City Marathon, none other than Hellen Obiri.
That's just for starters. OAC American star Joe Klecker ran 2:10 in his marathon debut in New York, and Dathan's children are even getting into the act. They're beginning to make a real mark on Colorado high school running.
So let's talk about all that and much more with Dathan. But first, Amby, what running news has caught your eye recently?
I got to say, I'm looking a little bit forward at this point, George. There are some big races coming up a couple weeks from now. Actually, this weekend. First is the NCAA Cross Country Championships. That's always fantastic to follow. And this year, there are going to be a lot of eyes focused on the BYU first-year runner, Jane Hedengren, who could be a generational talent. We'll know more after this weekend because she's facing the biggest test of her very young career. The first weekend in December is packed. On Sunday, December 7th, Clayton Young, Cara D'Amato, Emma Bates, and a whole host of fast runners are going to show up at that super quick Valencia Marathon course in Spain. The Cal International Marathon in Sacramento is the same day, Sunday, December 7th, and that's always a place where a lot of people try to hit their qualifying time for the U.S. Olympic Marathon Trials of 2028. If you're following along, the qualifying standards this year, or for 2028, are 2:16 for the men and 2:37 for the women. But there's an even bigger date on my calendar, the day before those two marathons. That's Saturday, December 6th, when the U.S. cross-country trials will be held in Portland, Oregon. The top finishers will qualify for the World Cross Country Championships, which is coming to the U.S. for the first time since it was held in Boston in 1992. Next year, 2026, it will be held on January 10th, very early, and we've all been hoping for a top group of U.S. men in particular to qualify for the team. Unfortunately, there are a couple who have already announced they aren't running, Grant Fisher and Cole Hocker. So I'm hoping that all the other young studs, and there are a lot of great young American studs, I'm hoping they'll show up and try to make that world team. George, what have you been noticing the most?
Well, first off, Amby, I got a flash report that it looks like Clayton Young is not going to be joining the field in Valencia, I'm sorry to say.
Oh.
Yeah, I know. I was really looking forward to it. His teammate, Connor Mance, has obviously been spectacular of late with the American record and the marathon. It only bodes well for, Clayton. They trained together. Clayton was here in New York, as you know, doing some TV commentary during the marathon recently. And, he's a big favorite of ours, Amby, and I was looking forward to him on that super fast Valencia course. But I'm afraid that is not to be if what I've heard is correct. So that's unfortunate. And you seem to be doing distances, and you often leave me with sprint news. And one thing we've heard is that the LA competition schedule has just been released, and the women's 100 all 3 rounds are going to take place on the first day of competition for track and field at the 2028 games in LA. And that's never been done before. It may be controversial. It may be brilliant. And, Amby, I haven't even figured it out yet whether that's a good thing or not. But we'll get some reactions, I'm sure, from the sprinters. The other thing that came out in the schedule, and I do have some feelings about it, is that Sydney McLaughlin-Lerone is unlikely to be able to run a double, meaning the 400 flat and the 400 hurdles. And that's just too bad. I really wish they'd go back and look at the schedule again, because as we saw in the World Championships, you can take the hurdles away from Sydney, but she still wins at 400 meters. And at 400 meters hurdles, she's the greatest there's ever been. And wouldn't it be fun to see someone do a double that's never been done before? In my view, and my advice to the to the powers that be is let Sydney be Sydney, and if she wants to pole vault, let her do it. She's just so spectacular that I think we should see her at her best in any event that she's really qualified to run. And that would be.
George, it's interesting with Olympic schedules. Everybody always has their opinions and things they particularly don't like when a new Olympic schedule is announced. This one is really interesting, with the women having to do everything in the women's 100 on one day. And by the way, it's not the first day of track and field competition, because track and field is going to lead off the LA Olympics from day one in another change from the past. So this event with the great women's 100 runners is going to come right after opening ceremonies. And it's strange that the men are still going to get 2 days, but the women are going to be forced into one. Seb Coe has said it's a great idea, and all of the women were consulted, but we don't really know about that.
Exactly.
So that's it from George and me. That's our thoughts on the biggest recent news in the world of running. Now let's turn to Dathan Ritzenhein, this week's guest on Running, State of the Sport. It's possible that no American runner has had a bigger impact than Dathan over the last quarter century. He's gone from a high school sensation back in his days in Rockford, Michigan, to college stardom at the University of Colorado and as a professional runner with Nike. And now he's coach at the On Athletic Club in Boulder.
And during his career, Dathan recorded best performances of 12:56.27. That was back in 2009 for 5,000 meters to set an American record. And 2 hours, 7 minutes, and 47. That was also way back in 2012 in the marathon. Athletes he now coaches have recently won the steeplechase gold medal in this summer's Tokyo World Championship and the top female spot in the recent New York City Marathon. Also, another of Dathan's runners, Joe Klecker, ran his debut marathon in New York and finished with a strong 2:10.37.
There's actually much more that we can't possibly get to, but one interesting angle is that Dathan's children are now making an impact in Colorado high school running, and we hope to get around to that briefly. Dathan, after that long introduction, welcome to Running State of the Sport. We're thrilled to have you join us.
Hi, Amby and George. It was great to be here with you guys, and I could talk about running all day long, so I'm excited for it.
So, Dathan, let's begin then by asking you just a quick update on your personal biography, your age, where you're living, what's your family situation, and take us through a typical day.
Yeah, so I am 43 now. I've been retired from pro running for a little over 5 years now. And I live in Niwot, Colorado, which is a little village outside of Boulder, Colorado. And they have this is where all the pros in town train. The teams are the best high school teams in the country. It's a great little town, though. But I live here with my wife, Kaylin, who is was a good runner back in her day, and our 2 children, Addie and Jude. And Addie is a senior, very good runner who's won some national high school championships and is off to NAU, a Northern Arizona University, next year. And my son Jude is a freshman at Niwot, and he's also the top, the fastest high school freshman in the country now too in cross country. So he's we live a good life here. It's been a lot of fun. I'm the head coach of the On Athletics Club, which I think is, I mean, I'm probably biased, but I think it's one of the top performing clubs in the world. And so I get to kind of live the best life. I just live running all day long. We go to practice. We meet 6 days a week. Then I got my kids. I get to travel. I'm going this weekend to watch them down in Arizona at the NXR regionals. And it's a good life.
Dathan, you've already given us a little bit of news, or at least me, because I didn't know that Addison had committed to NAU. So you're going to farm her out of state, out of Boulder to Flagstaff, I guess. But that's terrific. So much to talk about, but let's go quickly to the recent New York City Marathon, which Hellen Obiri won in a big way with a big course record. And of course, she's now won 2 New York. She's won 2 Boston. She was bronze medalist in the Olympic marathon. I'm curious, did she run New York by a plan that you and she had hatched together, or does she run by emotion?
Well, sort of both.
Of course.
She took a little bit of liberty, but we knew Hellen was in incredibly good shape. I think that was her 7th marathon with me coaching her. And that was I started coaching her in 2022, and she really didn't know any. I mean, it was her to go into the marathon. And so she had done a lot of things on the track and cross country and everything else, but marathon is a whole new ball game. And so, we always kind of wanted to lean into her background as a great track athlete. And we've always relied on that in the past. This year, though, I thought she was in a very good shape, and I said, let's maybe push it a little earlier, but the race ended up being so much faster than we thought it might be also, that she just still waited until kind of like the second plan. The first plan was maybe we go like earlier off the bridge or something, but if the pace is fast, we just wait a little longer. And so she kind of waited, she bided her time, and the top women were also strong, but I think we saw at the end, I mean, Hellen's potential is still just growing, and I mean, she's one of a kind. So, like, she was just such an incredible athlete, and so her last 1,000 meters there was just was remarkable, and she has a lot left in the tank too. So yeah, it was a little bit of both, but she very much she listens to us now, at least.
Well, she clearly is one of the top marathon runners in the world. She's pretty much done it all, and as you were just saying, she's got this extraordinary range across all distances. Tell us a little bit about what it is that makes Hellen the performer that she is, Dathan.
Well, Hellen is, I mean, I'm spoiled early in my coaching career to have an athlete like her, because I'm really one of the, the differentiators, I think, in the champion mindset is really belief, and I think Hellen really believes she is the best. And I think you obviously get that validation in training and practice, but she has her ability to focus is better than anybody I know. I've never seen anybody who has been able to rest and recover like her. And she really lives that lifestyle. And so when she goes to the line, she really does believe 100% that she is going to win. And mentally, she's just going to always be difficult to beat, because I think she came from a very, very, I guess I wouldn't call it, it's a background that most of us would never know. I mean, really, really poor background. And she started training, in middle distance, really, even as a sprinter in reality. But She ran 2 flat for 800, and she was a bronze medalist in the World Championships in the 1500, in 2013. So really came from almost more of a middle distance background. And when I started coaching her, her longtime manager and coach for many years, Ricky Sims, sent me along all her training. And, I think even us being able to sign Hellen was a sign that maybe some people thought she wouldn't have the ability in the marathon just with her extreme stride and stuff like that. But we saw she's a champion that knows how to win. And if someone knows how to win, it doesn't matter how fast, the times are that they show. And so she always has that mindset. And I think when she gets in the race, she really, really believes. And I think that's the thing that really sets her apart. And she practices that over and over every single day. And she is special in that way.
Dathan, nobody would disagree with that statement that winning is number one. But, runners are runners, and that means they like to record fast times. And because Hellen has only run the tough courses like New York and Boston and Paris Olympics, her best time is way, way down the list on the World Athletics standings. So my question is, how fast could Hellen run if we cut her loose on Berlin, Chicago, or one of those places?
Maybe we'll find out one day.
Uh-huh.
I mean, she always wants to she's always been a competitor. Even on the track, she ran fast, but not like particularly fast, I guess. She always beat the women who ran the world records. She always had a good close. And she probably could have run faster, than she did even on the track as well. Just those things were not as important to her, but I think that if she goes to a big city marathon and there's other really good women in it, then that's going to be the thing that would push her further even than maybe just going and time trying out a race with a couple male pacers. But I tell people all the time she trains like a 2:08 male marathoner would, or better. And
okay,
I don't
that's
think
a big number.
Yeah, I don't think she could run 2:08, but she trains like that anyway. And like on a day-to-day basis, our men like Joe, I don't think that he can do better quality still, like on the track for sure. Like that's the difference. But like her day-to-day, even normal training paces, she'll run 20K in the morning at 6-minute mile pace and 10K in the afternoon when she's doing a marathon block at 6:20 per mile. And so for her, that's day in and day out, no matter whether she's running 120 miles a week and the session before was 20 to 24 miles at marathon pace. So like she's just able to do that. And so I think she certainly has a good chance that she could run a women's only marathon world record. And I don't know so much about, the asterisks around the women's world record that currently stands. I think that that's I think we're never going to go for that, but I think she could be one of the fastest women out there legitimately. So
I don't think anyone doubts that.
Yeah. So Dathan, let's switch now to Joe Klecker. He had a very good debut, as we said at the top of the show, in New York. And what was your feeling about his 2:10? And was that more or less the goal that you guys had set out for him before the race?
Yeah. With the first marathon, you never know. But I think with Joe, when we signed him to our team, he was the first athlete we signed for the OAC in 2020. And so, but we always anticipated he would be a marathoner. And actually, we signed him thinking he would be there a lot earlier. But he continued to just prove us wrong on the track, getting better and faster all the time. He ran under 13 minutes 3 times at least, maybe more. Won the U.S. title, beating out the best guys in the 10K. He made 3 teams in a row in the 10K. And so we stayed there for a long time. And I think maybe a lot longer than we had originally anticipated. But when he had his first major injury 4 years into his pro career. And so that was a moment where, it's easy to look back and say, maybe we should have gone there earlier. But at the same time, he was running so well. So I think the build up to New York, we had to take all the things that he had learned from the track and he had developed there, but we still had to rebuild for a year because it was a long time that he was off. And so he's starting a new event coming off from 6-8 months where he wasn't training much. And so we're learning a lot of new things and we're going into uncharted territory. And so that's part of the reason we chose New York, is because we have no idea what Joe could run for the marathon. And so I think we, even with all the science and testing we can do, until you actually do it, you don't know what's going to happen. You don't know what happens on the other side of 21 miles. It's just, it's a different world. And so running New York, we said, let's do a race where you can race. That's because you've always been a great racer. Your track credentials have always been good, where you just get in and we don't really think about the time, and the times come, but we race. And but knowing New York's a slower course, there is no pacer. So we figure we're just going to be cautious early. And we were pretty confident that most years the race is run like how it did. It's moderate, comfortable through 25K, and then it's quite erratic. And so we said, let's run it. Let's just be very cautious coming off from the bridge, and let's learn a lot this first marathon. And that's exactly what he did. He had the fastest, his finish was great. His last 3 miles were, I think, some of his fastest miles in the race. And, in hindsight, maybe he could have gone with the break, or at least with the second pack. Probably with the way he closed, he probably had the fuel to do it, but you don't really know. And I think it was important that we find that out beforehand. And so Joe really stuck to that plan, and he felt very committed to doing that. And he picked up a lot of people at the end, and he closed really well. And so we were really happy. I mean, 2:10 in New York, it's actually a great time. And I think looking at, he was only 40 seconds off from the top 5. He's right in there on his first one. I thought it was a really successful debut marathon.
Dathan, George and I have been around long enough to know Joe's parents really well. So I had him pegged for the ultra marathon. You gotta consider that too, right?
Yeah. His mom and dad are running royalty from the 70s to 90s, right?
They certainly are. They sure are. Yeah. So let's go to the track. The big surprise. Well, a lot of us thought it was a big surprise when one of your athletes, Geordie Beamish, actually won the gold medal in the steeplechase at Tokyo World Championships. I'm curious if you saw it coming and where you watched it from and what kind of emotion you felt during that last lap.
Well, it'll be a hard moment to top in my career going forward, unfortunately. So,
yeah,
it was, George probably winning, and especially this year is probably, to me, it's just so much validation for an athlete that, when we signed the initial team, he was the last athlete we signed, and we didn't have much money because it was COVID, we're a small company, and we had already signed the max, and we just had to go back and ask for a little bit more. And he was an oft-injured athlete that had been at NAU and had never really ran for more than 12 weeks at a time without an injury, never did multiple consecutive seasons back-to-back. And so, he came kind of on it was a risk maybe. So when we signed George, he was a person that had so much potential, but I think it was going to take a lot to get him capable to train at the level that it takes to be competitive. And so I think it was a process that took years, and he stuck to it. And so for me, it was the most probably rewarding experience. Him coming up into the stands to see us after on his victory lap is the most emotional moment in running yet for me. And I think we knew he was in really good shape going in. But he was under the radar because the year before he had won the world championships in Glasgow indoors in the 1500, out kicking Cole Hawker, who's again, he's probably. Yeah, George can kick. George is a better kicker than anybody in the world, no doubt. Wow. And so, but I think, he had an injury in Paris that, I think a lot of people would have pegged him last year for being in that position. But this year he was flying under the radar because of it. And he had some solid races, but nothing that leapt out at anybody. And he had some small setbacks that we just had to change the plan throughout the year. So going in, we were seeing every day that we're like, George is like really fit, but he hasn't had an opportunity to race to show it. And of course, then when we did his last couple of workouts, I was really confident that George was going to medal. But then he does the first round and he falls, and then there's all the pictures of him getting stepped on in the face, and then he has the ridiculous clothes, and I was like, oh, why'd you do that, George? You showed all your cards, and now everybody's going to know, and they're going to make it a fast race, but they didn't, and honestly, it wouldn't have mattered. I think maybe Al Bakali has a better chance to win, but George was fit enough that I think he was going to medal anyway, But we were watching it unfold, and every lap that goes by, you're like, oh my gosh, I can't believe these guys are sitting around. Why would they do this? And I don't know if they didn't know who he was, or if they just didn't want to do it. But you can't leave it like that with George. And so we were actually like 100 meters to go, up in the stands watching. And I think going into the last lap, even though he was in like 11th place, I knew he was going to medal as long as he stayed on his feet every hurdle. But you don't know if he's going to win or not. So every time he'd go over, you're like, okay, one more time over. He stayed on his feet each time. And when he came out of the water, I was like, he'll win. Like he could sniff it if he can be that close. And so we got to see it. It was like the most incredible moment. Yeah, it was awesome.
It really was. And, our listeners, if any of them have not seen it, you should pull that back up and watch George Beamish in the steeplechase in the World Championships, because as Dathan just said, he can outkick anyone in the world. And that leads to a question, Dathan, and it's a simple question, but maybe an important one. And that is that just a pure natural talent of his, or is that a weapon that you work on? He obviously is blessed with incredible fast twitch fiber.
George, yeah. So we don't run as fast ever as he does at the end of races usually. But we do work on the mechanics of running fast for sure. And we do that year round. But his last 400, I think, was 56 or 57 over barriers. And I think he was like 13 below his last 100 meters, even from the splits I remember. And we never get anywhere close to that. So at least not over hurdles anyway. So we do a lot of like year round work. We have my assistant coach, Kelsey Quinn. We do a neurological day where we do sprinting with a lot of people. But to tell you the truth, like most of what George does, it's like sometimes I used to like harp on him and say, why can't you run like a normal person and just put yourself in there? But he knows that he can close. And I think that's something that he has he was probably born with it, but you can't let it I believe you can't let that go away. Otherwise, that you're definitely not going to be able to do it, especially as you get older. So we work on it, but really in reality, that's a special thing. They call it the textbook George finish because I think that he wrote the book on it, and if everybody could do it, then it wouldn't be as special. And so I think that's a special gift that he has.
So Dathan, Jared Naguse may actually be your best known runner because he's been as good as anyone in the world in 1,500 meters, the mile for the last, 3-4 years. But he didn't make it to Tokyo because it's incredibly hard to make the U.S. team in his event. I'm wondering, he participated in Grand Slam. Was that a little too much for one season? And also, given the importance of the kick in his event, what are you going to do to turn him into Geordie Beamish?
Well, it's true. Yeah, like I think we had a lot of successes this year, and even Yard had a lot of successes this year.
Did.
But not, he set the world record indoors, like he won Diamond Leagues. But yeah, at the end of the day, we measure everything by the global championships in this sport to be the top level. And so for Yard not being there, that was stung a little bit. And I think some of the preparation we did was different for sure. And I think some of that was because of the commitment with Grand Slam. And I don't think it's all of it, but I definitely think a lot of people didn't run well because it's a new thing. We don't know how it's going to go. So I don't think I'd do it again, or I wouldn't advise them to do it again. But at least not in the capacity that the events were run. I think, there's a lot of emotional energy. I think when we look at our sport, I say you only get so many like all out moments every season because they take a lot of effort. And Yard went in very excited for the Grand Slam, and he competed really well. He ran 144, which, was a PB. But at the end of the day, I think if you look at how incredibly deep our U.S. trials are, you just have to be all in on that day. And that was probably a bit of an oversight on our part, where not that we took it for granted, but even going into the championships, we ran the race in the same way that we ran it the year before at the trials. And it was good enough, maybe we thought, oh, it's maybe not the best way to win, leading it out the front, but he's really strong. But it's the best way to make the team. And, if he had not made the team and we ran a different way, we probably would have been kicking ourselves and said we should have, but run it a different way. But, if it was the year before, he still would have made the team. And it was just that the guys everybody has leveled up to a higher level. But I think with one of the things I had to remember, and I think we all have to remember, like me, Yared, when we make these plans and stuff, he can run like that. He can run 327 and he can close really well and be a medalist. But he actually has always had a good kick as well. Like he's won so many times at the line like George before, and we need to lean on that a little bit. And so when we had to come off the disappointment of not making the team and he went to the Silesia Diamond League in Poland, that's why I said, no clock, don't touch the lead. Just when you make the move to the front, that's it. It's just a kick. And he did it. And he beat a whole lot of guys who ended up being, actually a couple of them were third, fourth in the world champs. And so we have to be able to back that kick no matter what. And just know that nowadays, and I had been seeing this all year, I had been saying, you have to be like a 327 guy to make the final almost now. And this because the semifinals are run in a way where, you got to be really strong because the best guys are still going to use that tactic to get through on 5 deep. But in the final, it never works now. Like you don't win from the front. And so I kind of thought it would be like a 334, 335 world champs final. I thought the semis would be slower or would be faster. So, and they were, and I think on my part, thing I could have done differently is we should have probably backed it, but it's hindsight, because when you're a 343 miler and you've run like that and done it before, sometimes it's easy to think that the same thing will happen again. But the level is so high now, and respecting your competitors and how high they are now, it just makes it a little bit more uncertain again, but that's what racing's exciting about, watch the 1500 is exciting because of that.
So Dathan, I want to go back to your own running a little bit. You were really extraordinary, a true sensation in high school, more than probably anyone even before or since. You finished 8th at Footlocker as a sophomore, and then you went on to win the next 2 years. And, how did you do all that, as a high school boy?
I probably did it mostly in a reckless way. I think we knew a lot less then than we know now. And so I think a lot of athletes at the highest level, like my kids, I watch them now, they train in a completely different way. I mean, I just had a huge passion and determination. I've always I've been a person like that, a very emotional person, since I was a kid. And so I always had a lot of drive, and I just did a lot. And so for me, I think I ran up to 100 miles a week at one point. I mean, my senior year, I was mostly running around 85 miles a week. And so I don't think kids nowadays even touch that. And that was before super shoes and all that, I think I probably trained at a level that was extreme. And, but I had that kind of mindset. I was a big risk taker. I've always been a big risk taker, I think, in that way. And so for me, I didn't see any problem with that at the time, and probably, led to more problems in my career as in college and pro that it did in high school. Because in high school, you're a boy that can handle training at a level that you definitely can't when you get older. And so, but I was lucky to have those other guys around me that were also running incredibly well. Alan Webb and Ryan Hall, making a competition that would push me further all the time. And I think those two guys definitely made me level up to a new level, to a new level where it was like, well, this is just what I have to do to win. And I think that was always my mindset. Like, I'm going to outwork, and I think it works to a certain point, but then you have to have somewhere to go always. And that's maybe where wisdom comes with age and with, having had moments where you've overdone it.
Dathan, it's interesting to hear you use words like reckless and extreme now, because a few years back, you and I had some long conversations about your high school career, and particularly the 2000 Footlocker race. And I was just stunned by some of the stuff that you did in high school. And it sounds like, looking back, you're a little stunned yourself. You mentioned Alan and Ryan and the 2000 Footlocker race, your senior year. I think that was, to me, still, it's the most historic high school race ever, with the three of you, the biggest guns in town and the country, going after each other on one day, one race. What can you tell us? What do you remember about the anticipation, the excitement, the tension beforehand, and also the running of the race?
Well, I do remember being very nervous because I think the year before, I was a bit of a surprise winner, I guess. I had been running really well, but a lot of the talk had been on Alan, I know. And I had run fast, but not like a lot of good, solid performances. But I had an incredible close, and so that was easy. I came in as the underdog. But the weight of expectation definitely adds a level of extreme emotion, probably, for a kid at 18, and so, or 17. I guess I was 17 at the time, but I was very confident in what I had done. Is from a training standpoint, I said there's no way that they've done more than I have done, and but I had watched Alan race extremely well, and Ryan as well. So the game plan in that race was basically, every race that year I had taken out crazy fast. I had run like 14:10 at the state meet by myself. I had run many fast, 14:30 or whatever times. And so kind of, I think everybody assumed, those guys are more kickers. He's a distance guy. He's going to take it out hard. And I remember talking to my coach, and he's like, here's what you're going to do. You're going to make them all second guess whatever the hell is going on. And said, you're not going to touch the front until 1 mile. And when you hit 1 mile, you're just going to start sprinting as fast as you can. And I was like, okay. And I did exactly that. We went super slow. I remember talking to Alan later. He was thinking, what the hell is he doing? Like, this is great for me. But that course at the time was very windy and twisty, I remember, and the ground was very soft and squishy. And so I knew I had a very good intuitive sense, I think, with cross country on what parts people would start to question things. And so I remember running that course beforehand and thinking, I'm going to hammer every curve. Every curve, I'm going to run hard, and I'm going to just keep on, and I'm never going to let up. And that's exactly what I did. As soon as I hit the mile, I just started going. And it was such a quick move that I think I put, 5-10 meters on Alan in a very short period of time. And then he was able to get going. But I think he thought, I'll just catch up. But I was like, I'm just going to go. Like, keep going. And every curve I would hit, and I'd turn out of it, and I'd just keep going. And I think it was a point to where I was like, it's like you just keep hitting over and over again until they can't do it anymore. And that's basically what happened. It was just 1 mile of just keeping the gas going as hard as you can, and then seeing if I could survive the last mile afterwards.
Dathan, I don't think it was much fun to race against you in high school.
Well, you had to know what you're good at, what you're not, and I wasn't good at kicking, so I knew that I had to lean into that.
So, Dathan, talking about you and Alan and Ryan, I mean, the three of you had obviously terrific professional careers, but perhaps they didn't last as long at the top as one might have expected. And I wonder if there's any thoughts on that, and have you and they talked about that together since?
Yeah. I mean, I don't know. Whenever we don't reminisce about it too much. I think we've done a few things over the years where we've talked about it, but I mean, I had a long career, like 16 years as a pro career, but I would say I had a lot of intermittent, like periods of injury, and I was honestly hanging on by a thread the last few years. Alan's career was pretty short, but huge highlights, and Ryan as well once he moved into the marathon, he was so gifted there, and like his career at the top was kind of short, but like so good in the years that he was there. And I think some of the things that made my career long were just that I think I was always a really resilient person. And so I always thought I could get better, and it wasn't until maybe 2018, like the last 2 years, when I didn't think I could get any better, whatever it was, if it was I had moved into the marathon, that I thought that's when I struggled with the motivation to push myself anymore. So I guess I never lost motivation. That was one of the things. I think Alan was like, I trained with Alan, in Oregon, and he was so talented and so emotionally driven as well, that I think, that's part of the reason why he had such electric performances. And it was, and Ryan was the same way, honestly. Ryan, when he believed in something very much, like he was so all in on it. But that fire kind of like can get burned out really quickly. And so my affliction was more, physically I would break down. And so I think I had a lot of time where I'd work on, mentally, like in the gym, training and, trying to stay fit. And I always kept that fire and hunger to kind of get back to the level that I thought I could get to. And I think for those guys, they just, it's hard to burn bright for a long time, and I had like my difference with my long career maybe was I had these really bright spots, throughout. It was like checkered throughout a long period of time. Theirs was really bright for short periods of time. And I think that that's just something that, if you're not managed well in your, like the periods of time down, or even the emotional part of running, like all of our athletes now, like we really want them to work on that mental, performance part. And I think that's something that is very important. And back in our day, it's not, we're younger than you guys were, but you don't talk about stuff, like you don't talk about the feelings you have back, whereas now, like we really try to get people to dig into that. And I think the best athletes in the world in every sport are doing that. And that's where I could say those guys maybe could have balanced those parts of their career better. And I think I could have benefited from it as well.
That mental and psychological, emotional stuff you're talking about just now is really, really fascinating. And I don't think a lot of us appreciate how top coaches like yourself have really incorporated it into the overall training program. And it is a big change. It's not as simple as saying, let's go do double thresholds today. The whole mental thing is different, but it's fascinating. And it will have to wait to another day for us to discuss, I think. You began coaching at On Athletic Club in 2020. I still don't know that much really about the club. Tell us how many athletes you've got, where's everybody live, what kind of facilities do you have? And a few moments ago, you said something like we were a small company. That might have been at the beginning, but we have the feeling that On's a pretty big company now. So where does the program go from here?
Yeah, well, I like to think that we played some part in it.
Absolutely.
I think it's been a little over 5 years now since we started the team. And my coaching career, I think, started quite a bit earlier, where, honestly, it's a skill like anything else. And just because you're a good runner doesn't make you a good coach. And so I think I knew from probably about the age of 28 or 29 that I wanted to coach. And I actually was at a point in my career where I was really like struggling with some motivation and stuff like that from some injury in 2013, 14. And I decided to take a volunteer assistant job helping Andy Powell at University of Oregon. And that was the first foray I had. This is 2013, 14. And so, I learned a lot there, but then I was like, I actually like applied for some collegiate jobs, got really close to a couple, but I didn't get them. And I was like, you know what, I'm just going to run for a little while longer. And I'm just going to see if I can kind of get the fire back in it. And I'll kind of coach on the side. And I did that then for a couple of years, and just slowly I worked with some Division II school, the same capacity. And then eventually just some other, sub-elite athletes until eventually, like a couple of years before OAC, I was coaching some pretty good runners. And so when the opportunities for this job started, it's kind of like I've gotten everything out of my body I can get now. Like, I need to go full in on this. And I've spent, like, at this point, 7 years as a kind of a part-time coach. And so when the opportunity came to start OAC in Boulder, we were small. Like I said, we were a private company, but we were like a footnote, and we didn't even make track spikes. So we're starting a track team with no spikes. And I'm taking a job interview with the founder of the company. That's how small it is. And so I think they kind of gave me like a lot of free reign to do how I wanted to start it. But we had nothing. We had no money. We lifted out of my garage. I think we started with 8 athletes, but like a few of them I coached before, they were not on big contracts at all. And I did it for very little money. But then we just chipped away, just like the company. Like, every year we grew, we started putting results up. And it was a hustle. It was like starting any other business. Like, it was just such a hustle, such a grind. It was just kind of me. And it was just years where, like, every season we'd try to get the results, recruit new athletes, ask for more money. And that was like over and over and over again. And, they get to the credit of On, they just continued to provide that. They never said no. Honestly, I would get to the end of the year and need more money in August. I'd want to recruit athletes, and they'd say, well, we're already at max. And I'd say, but I think we can do it. And they would do it. And so we went from my garage to a small gym in Roll Recovery's offices to a strip mall next to the Domino's Pizza to now we lived the last year and a half in a 3,000 square foot flex space that we have. It's a home gym. And actually today we're starting an expansion into like a big clubhouse that we've actually should be done hopefully in a couple months. And maybe we'll have you guys out there do a tour. But, I do think it's like we've really tried to professionalize it in a way from the ground up in a grassroots way that was just a grind. And all the time I've just that's probably the thing I'm really proud of, is that we're actually we're building something. Like, we weren't handed anything, and the athletes have that real ownership in it where they now are invested in it in a way that it's its own entity. And the company, like, we see the company now, it's the top, I think it's probably the 5th biggest, footwear company in the world maybe now. I'm not 100% sure, but it's around there. And we're just growing faster than any other brand. And I really believe performances like Hellen winning Boston, New York City Marathon, George winning the World Championships, and all the national records, all the World Championship and Olympic medals they won, those things validate a company. And they have backed us in a way that I'm so thankful for, because they've really given me the green light to do it. And I've been very fortunate to have a management company a management part of the company in sports marketing that they are so helpful in whatever way we need. And we see a vision together and we work as a team. And so that's been fun. We're up to 16 athletes now. We've launched a official branch that's for road racing. So I brought in a assistant coach Kelsey Quinn for the track side. She comes from the NCAA, more of a, she comes from like a sprint background. She does a lot of technical skills with people. I hired then Laura Thweet, who is a successful marathoner, to help build out more on the marathon side. And I oversee a lot of it. We have a full-time therapist, full-time brand person. We have a full-time operations coordinator. So we have a robust staff now, and we run it like a pro sport. And the company just keep doubling down on us, and that's something that we're excited about.
So, Dathan, that's so interesting, the whole On Athletic Club story, because it's still awfully new. And you had 5 years coaching there, and as you just told us, you had done some coaching before it. What did you learn that you didn't necessarily understand at the beginning about coaching? What's the hardest part, and what for you is the most fun?
Well, I love being at practice, and this is something that like when I first was a volunteer assistant for Andy Powell, I was like, this guy has the best job in the world. He was when he was at U of O. He went to Hayward Field. He set up the track and just had his groups going all day. I was like, how much better can it be than that? And but then, like the next thing I did was a volunteer assistant coaching job for Grand Valley State University, which is a great D2 school, but nowhere near the facilities, the backing, all the D1 power of like an Oregon. So I learned from Jerry Baltus there, who's an amazing coach I think he's been a D2 National Coach of the Year for so many times I can't even think. But man, that guy can hustle, and he built it out like in a way where he could fundraise things, he could get the groups going, he could get assistance, and he really just was like a grinder in that way, and very motivated too. So I learned a lot about that. But then I think the hardest part was learning to control the emotional part, because I think a lot of these athletes, I can empathize with them a lot. What they put out and what they do every day is such a emotional energy commitment that the coach has to also follow suit, in that you have to build them up when they need it, but you also have to be stable and calm when they don't. And it took me a little bit to realize, to figure that out, and also to take the upsets and move forward. Like I think you have to be able to shake it off. And as an athlete, you're really only focused on yourself, and so you have a bad race or whatever, you can go and you can mope or you can do whatever. My wife would only give me 24 hours, she would say, but you can pour your energy into it. As a coach, though, it's very hard with a group, because you have people who run great and you have people who run bad, and it's from race to race sometimes. And, we had like this amazing world championships where I just kept saying everybody ran good. Nobody ever ran bad. But it's usually not like that. Usually you are like consoling someone. And I mean, so many moments like Sage Herder Klecker, I think she was going to make the Olympic team last year, but the way the race, someone fell in front of her and she was basically taken out of the race. I mean, like she just cried in my arms for like 15 minutes. It was the worst moment. And when you really think someone has it, and then you got to turn and you got to go back to the next person. And like this year, Yard didn't make the team, and that was a huge surprise. And I think Gisette was like the next, like soon thereafter. And I was like, oh, I got to pull myself together, you really have to you have to be very stable for them. And it took me quite a while to figure that out. And, I get better all the time, but I think that's probably something I'd probably tell any coach, like there's going to be like a lot of hard moments. So enjoy the Geordie Beamishes and the Hellen Obiri moments, like those things, because when you're going to have a lot of challenging times. And because if you really care and you want to be invested emotionally, they need that and they can feel that. And if you don't provide that to them as a coach, like it's very easy for them to not believe in themselves either. And so they shouldn't seek validation, from you as the coach, but they can definitely feel whatever energy you bring too. And so being aware of that is actually really important.
Dathan, running has changed a lot in the last 15 years in ways I don't think we really expected from, say, 2010 or so. I mean, we just thought this was the simple Paleolithic jogging across the savannah sport or something like that. And then all of a sudden you've got super shoes, you've got all kinds of other new equipment, you've got cross-training devices, tech gizmos to wear on your wrist or your arm or your stomach or wherever you wear them, every known supplement. What of these things do you consider important and what do you consider passing fads? What do you think has made a real impact on the sport? Shoes, obviously.
Shoes have made a difference in times, but I don't think they've made a difference in performances. Like at least
Say
when
that
I think
again.
about
what do you mean?
So the performance, more like as in the show, like it hasn't changed how exciting running is. Like
Gotcha.
I don't find it any more exciting if they run the world championships in 3:34 or 3:27 like the Olympics before. I don't think it matters. Like I think the races at the best are the best, and I think the athletes at the top are still as good as they ever were. Like the athletes from the 70s, 80s, 90s. Now I think there's a lot more athletes that are, because there's more available information and there's ways to level the playing field, so to speak, where you can do, if you were an athlete before that, I think I probably would have been a huge benefiter of super shoes because mechanically, while they could maybe make some injuries, they could predispose people, they can actually allow you to run a lot more volume. And so that's probably something that's made a huge change in the ability to people to train, but I don't think that it's actually changed like the show. It hasn't changed what's exciting. And so I think a lot of it is great. It's the advancement of, no different than, all weather tracks from dirt tracks and things like that. It's just, there's just more shit out there, to deal with. And so for my job is more like, well, I'm looking through it and saying it's not worth the time. Like, what's the most basic things? Like I say, do the most you can do while staying healthy, be very motivated, peak well. And if you can do those things, you're going to be really good. And I see a lot of people out there who probably think of how many millimoles of lactate they can run to, for how many double thresholds and all that. This stuff can just cloud your mind into how much can I do? Can I continue to recover? And am I really motivated at the end? And some of those things are like the most basic biomarkers. Like if an athlete comes in with a shitty attitude for like days in a row, they're probably getting too tired, and it doesn't matter what their blood lactate was in their last double threshold workout. It could be that it's related to them being breaking up with their girlfriend or that they were dehydrated or anything. And so there's so many variables. And sometimes, like for me, coaching, I'm not the most scientific person. Like, sure, we use the most basic stuff, but I rely on some people to give me good information. But as a coach, it's about you and the athlete first and foremost. And if you can't have that part, the relationship part, and the wherewithal to see them as, and how they are as a person, it doesn't matter how many gadgets and gizmos and millimeters of foam you have, it won't matter. And so you got to use your brain. You got to be intuitive, and like coaching's a relationship thing. It's a person game, and the AI might come and tell us exactly what to do for training in a couple years, but I can tell you, you're still going to have to deal with what's happening between their ears.
It's so interesting. This is, you've already been talking about it, but would you describe your training philosophy, let's just say for a 10,000 meter or a marathon runner, in terms of high mileage and tempo running, double thresholds, and how much in staying speed sharp too?
Well, yeah, I think every person you got to take the best of what's available and make it your own. And I think one of the tenets of our training system and philosophy is, I don't think we're a huge high mileage program, but I'd say it's moderately high. I'd say a lot of our program is moderately based. I think we do a moderate amount of fast running. We do, certainly I could tell you volumes, there's not that much difference between maybe like a yard and a goose to a Joe Klecker is 20% difference maybe, but I think it's just where that 20% isn't all in volume, and so I think we run fast a lot, even in the marathon. Like for Hellen, for example, I think I don't think we're at a point now where in training or in racing, unless we go to like 100-mile races, which, even then there probably is a little bit of this carries over. You have to be able to run fast and hard. Like these are high velocity things now. And so maybe that's one of the things that like super shoes in particular brought along too, is the paces are so much faster. So mechanically you have to be sound to be able to do it. And just naturally volume is going to diminish ability at the top end of speed. And so you have to at times rebuild the system. You have to rebuild the power that's needed. And so I always think about it as like a moderately well-rounded program. I think we have a super well-rounded program. We do some double threshold, but not that much, and not for everybody. We run fast all year round, but I wouldn't call us a speed-based program. I say everything's a sliding scale, and even when we measure things like blood lactate, we don't do it because we say we have to run at your threshold, but some days we do say we want to run at your threshold. And we want to know then what the cost was of that workout. And if the cost was too high, that just means we change the next workout. And so I think that's where I'm always thinking about the workout from what was the last workout instead of, like what do we want to do the next time? And so I think it's hard to do with a big group sometimes, because it's easy if you have like a very specific training system that you plug in. But, I think it works really well, and I have very capable assistant coaches, and I think the athletes even, they perform well at the time of year that they need to. And, like at the end of the day, I think you can't just, I don't think you can rely on one thing. If you rely only on high mileage and you never run fast, it doesn't matter, and if you only run fast, but you don't get moderately high volume, you'll never be there at the end to use it. And so it's a pretty moderate program.
Dathan, I kind of love hearing you talk about moderate programs, if you will, and a sliding scale, because one of the things I think with elite athletes is it's really easy to overtrain. I mean, they're so motivated, and you can kind of always run an extra 5 miles every day if you want to. And so there you go, and everybody thinks more is better. They know it isn't, but secretly they actually think it is. They think everybody else is doing 170 miles a week, so they should be doing it too. So how do you convince your athletes that moderate is better than more? Because more is just so alluring.
Yeah, and more slower I don't think is necessarily always better either. So I think, for our athletes, I think if you come in right away and you don't have, or you haven't had success yet, it's harder for me to want to give them, input in their training. Now, because so for example, like Geordie Beamish, it's very different. I have a very good relationship with George, and I can trust very much what he tells me, and he'll trust very much what I tell him. And so it works very good. But I think, if you come in and you want to do something different, then it's not the place for you either. Like you have to at least start and say, I want to do this, and I want to build the relationship, and you have to be very open, and communication is everything, and avoiding mistakes is the goal. But we also know, like, this is professional sport. Like we are at the top of the food chain here, and the margins are small, and you have to be willing to risk. I believe at the level that we're at, you have to be able to be willing to risk also that you go over the line sometimes. And we want to avoid that, and we want to learn where the line is. But like, I that's how I am as a person. I want to see what people are capable of. And I think that I think a lot of times most athletes are, too driven, and you have to hold them back, and occasionally you get someone who has anxiety about it and you have to push them along, but I do think that if you want to be great, you got to be ready to take some risks sometimes. And we just want to make sure we don't, it doesn't become habitual. Like if it becomes habitual, then there's a problem for sure. And if you have an athlete who's always injured, then either they're doing something wrong or you're doing something wrong, and you gotta take a step back. And I think that's a hard thing to do sometimes. And sometimes you get lucky and you have a person who is like extremely durable. But a lot of people just need different stimulus at different times, but then you got to get them like once they're robust enough, you have to get them back to that mindset where it's like, okay, I can go for it. And those are the hard times, honestly. It's when the athletes are like in a cycle. When they're in a cycle, you're like, man, you feel bad for them. I really feel bad for those athletes because I got in those same cycles at different periods of time. But like, you also have to be willing to walk up and look over the edge sometimes too. So yeah, coaches got to be on the back holding the shirt so you don't go.
So Dathan, we've taken a lot of your time, but we're not going to let you go until we talk about this whole running family of yours.
That's all good.
Your wife,
I told you guys I don't have anything else to do today. So
great.
No, we're good. Let's keep at it. I think this has just been a fabulous conversation. Your wife, Kaylin, was an elite runner in high school at your high school in Rockford, Michigan. And like you, she went on to the University of Colorado, as you did. And now you've got 2 children, as we mentioned at the top of the podcast, who are really making big names for themselves in high school running. Addie, national cross champion 2 years ago, and she's still going strong. And her brother Jude's a 9th grader, and you made mention that maybe he's up there, best 9th grader in the country. Pretty extraordinary. Tell us how much you get involved with their training. Do you tell them to train like you did in high school, or
I'm definitely my wife would kill me if I told them to train like I did. So I I think we both came out of a program that trained a lot, but we were a very good program too, and we were lucky to have like that group of kids around and really learn the culture and stuff. And fortunately, my kids are in that same situation where they have a great team, a great culture. Their boys' team is ranked number 1 in the country, and the girls are somewhere around 5th-ish. And, they're lucky because, hey, they have me as a resource, but I don't need to get involved because they have a great coach. They have a coach, Kelly Christensen, here at Niwot, who has taken over, I think, 9 years. Maybe this is his 10th year. And, he's built one of the best high school programs out there, but they also train in a much smarter way than we used to. I think he leaves a lot of meat on the bone there, and he really lets them develop because they're young runners. And so they do a lot of gym work, a lot of drills. They don't do extreme volume, but he gets them up to a high enough volume that they can make a transition into college. And it's just a good, general, well-rounded program. And I think if the kids have fun and they have really good, like I'm happy for Jude, he's got a couple of kids ahead of him that are juniors and seniors that are just great role models to take him along. Also be a good person, learn how to be a humble champion and be able to push himself, but also understand the greater concept of the team. And Addie, the same. She had that when she was young, and she had such great success. And now she's she's heading off to NAU, and so I get involved more like the dad manager, I guess, than the dad coach, which is nice. Managing, hopefully, the things that I can help with, like whether it's like emotional, and mental performance, things like that, or if I can provide things, like therapy, or if Kelly wants my opinion on stuff like what might be a good goal for them. Like I could help him talk about that, but he just does the training. I don't even think about it, which is nice. Like for me, I don't have to do that. I can just be dad and help however I can. And, if I get to take Addie to Penn relays and do that, that's great. If I get to take me and my wife go down and we just run around the course, but I can give them, like useful information, like that. But I don't get involved in their day-to-day training, which I'm fortunate that we live here in Niwot where the kids have that already.
Dathan, everybody needs another bag carrier. So if that's all you're doing for the kids, that's a pretty big contribution, keeping track of that stuff. I believe you said you and Kaylin are going to your state championships, or maybe it's in a regional meet this weekend. There's another meet happening this weekend with a perhaps generational talent named Jane Hedengren. I'm just curious if you have any observations about Jane and what she's done and where she's headed, because she's hard to avoid, right?
Oh, I mean, she's probably going in as the favorite now for NCAA championships, and you have
a freshman or woman
as a freshman, and the level that she was running at last year was so beyond what anybody else has. So, yeah, I was in that situation kind of before too, and I would just say, I hope she has a good support system around her, because it comes hard with a lot of expectations, but also if you're logical and you have a long-term view, and you can have moments where you can step back and pull away your identity from your results, and really just continue to have like a strong relationship with your family and your friends, then even when the hard times come, which they will at some point, but she also has obviously very incredibly talented athlete that hopefully she can avoid a lot of that stuff too. And I hope she's exciting to watch, and it's going to be NCAA championships this weekend. The NCAA is such an incredibly deep competitions now, and I think there's always been good, like Kenyans and stuff like that, but the depth of them at the level, honestly, she's probably beyond most of them, but the really good ones, they were all just, Doris and Pamela just were in the world championships in Tokyo. So you're talking about really high level. And so it's going to be exciting to watch for sure.
Dathan, we're not looking at this early juncture to write your obit, but you've been a big part of this sport for 25 years at least now, and that's quite something. So what do you think your contributions have been, and how would you like other runners to think about your influence in the sport?
Well, I'm only 42 going on 43, so I'm hoping if I get 25 good years, I'm only halfway there then, at least. So hopefully I'll get lots of time to continue to refine the craft and build the team. I think the team, like my own running, my career in high school and college pro, all my pro runners are better than I was as a pro now, like most of them are. So that's exciting. I'm fortunate that I was able to step into a job that I love more than the thing that was my passion for 20 something years before that. I really found a calling in coaching that is, it's more meaningful and rewarding than my career as a runner ever was. So I don't know, maybe in 25 more years when I'm in my 60s and they're looking back, they won't even, that'll be a footnote, they're running. And I'm really proud right now of having built the team to the level that it is in such a short period. To me, I think I want that to be a legacy thing. I want this to go the long distance. I want to build fans of running and of pro running, US running, and of the OAC, of the On Athletics Club. I want to build those kind of fans that last for, those next 25 years. And that's what, because now I've already I'm fortunate that I've been able to coach these incredible athletes already, and had some of these moments like coaching a world champion or Boston, New York City marathon champions. Like we already had people do world records, all that stuff. I can't just stop there. I want to build a legacy on it. And so that's what is motivating to me right now. And I'm trying to continue to build that team, build the team around me. Cause I'm not the smartest guy in the world, so the people who know what to do is get other really smart people around them and try to let those people also contribute and build it. And so now that's my focus right now. And I'm hopeful just to continue building the level so that we have these kind of moments and you get fans that, that are actually diehard fans of running and hopefully ultimately the OEC.
Dathan, I think for those of us who've been lucky enough to observe you for 25 plus years now, it's interesting to trace the evolution of Dathan Ritzenhein from the self-confessed reckless high school runner who would just go faster, faster, longer, longer if somebody told him to do that, to somebody who's now describing himself as balanced and stable, which sounds kind of boring, but there's still that touch of recklessness. And of course, we recognize that excellence is always the goal, and one hopes in life to evolve enough to learn the best ways to get to excellence. And I think you're coming really, really close to that.
Well, I'm trying to be balanced and stable, I will say, but the passion is still there, and I've always been really passionate and really driven, and that's always pushes me, so hopefully I'll keep trying to be more balanced.
I always tell my wife I'm trying to change, but the truth is I'm not capable of changing, so you better get used to it. So
I like that.
We end our podcast with two basic questions. The first is about the state of the sport. What do you like about the sport now? What's really good, and what do you think could use some fixing?
Well, I think, running is still at its all-time high right now. Participation's great. New York City was, 59,000 people just ran the race. There's easier ways to see people, via streaming. You can follow athletes all you want. The stories are there. And so I think that's all great. And then, there's always these glimmers, I don't want to dog on Grand Slam, but, hopefully elevating the professional side is what I still hope to see improvement on. But in reality, the performances are there, the people are there, the athletes are there. And that's why, my hope with the team is we keep creating a narrative that people care about. And I think that resonates with people and it's easy to grasp. So if I think about running and where it's at, the state of it, I think it still has all the things that make it exciting. There's just a lot in the world that is can distract from it, right? There's a lot of other sports you can see. We're never going to go back to the 70s where you had 3 TV channels, and if you got a major marathon or something, or a major dual meet against the Soviet Union in track and field, where that's what everybody's going to watch. We're never going to go back to that because now we live in an information superhighway where everything's available. But what we can do is we can continue to build the best programs for the best athletes, and people are going to want to watch that. And it doesn't matter if it's a Netflix show or it's a Grand Slam track series, something like that. And so I think a lot of people get down on where it's at, but the reality is the performance is just still exciting. The athletes are still there, and it's just a different world than it used to be. So I still think that track and field, road running, the state of running is pretty good.
So Dathan, we close with a final question, and we give you 3 fairy godmother wishes, and only 3. What are you wishing for yourself, your kids, your team, U.S. running across the board, or really anything else, but only 3?
Well, my life is all wrapped around running like that. And so if I get to keep doing what I'm doing, that's going to be one. I love doing it. It doesn't matter. I hope that I have that same opportunity. I hope I can incorporate my kids in that in some way, but in reality, I want them to find their own path too. So if they're there, I'll be there to help them. And I really want to see that our team, like I said before, that's the mission for me, a legacy of building the team and the program. And so if I have a fairy godmother wish, it's that we continue to have that same kind of support, because I think we're growing it at a rate that's incredibly exciting. And so if I can keep doing what I'm doing, I can keep building the team, and I get to in some way watch my kids be happy and successful with it. Those are going to be the 3 things that I'm going with.
Well, we hope you get them, Dathan, and we thank you so much for this podcast. And that concludes our conversation with this week's guest, Dathan Ritzenhein, an all-time American running great and now becoming an all-time American great coach at the On Athletic Club in Boulder.
Great.
Thanks
Thank
so
you,
much
Andy.
for
Thank
being
you, George.
with us, Dathan.
Thanks, guys.
Amby, that might have been our longest podcast yet, but Dathan made every minute so interesting. He certainly has done it all in our sport, and for our sport, I should say, as well. What did you find the most interesting?
I really appreciated his comments at the end about the high school coach where his kids are running. I mean, he's Dathan friggin' Ritzenhein, and he has absolutely but nothing but supportive words for the local high school coach. I think that's totally classy. And I've got to add that I absolutely love the arc of his career from the insanely hard training, he called it even excessive, that he did in high school to his current approach, which is balanced and stable. He hasn't given up on the drive for excellence, not at all. But he can see the bigger picture now. And that, in my opinion, is what makes him a really great coach. George, what are your reactions to Dathan?
Yeah, Amby, the same kind of things as yours. The fact is, as you said, he's not coaching Addie and Jude, but at the same time, he talked about being a humble champion and what a role model he is for them in that regard. I mean, I think in many ways it's more important than the technical side of it is how you handle yourself when you're as good as he is or was, and they are promising to be now. And interesting that he told us, because I didn't know that Addie is signed on to go to Northern Arizona next year. And so it's going to be fun to watch her as she moves on to the next level. That's for sure. So I think it was just a great chat with Dathan.
Thank you, George. And yeah, I'm sure there are going to be multiple Ritzenheins in the news for perhaps many years to come. So that's it for this week's episode of Running State of the Sport. We hope you enjoyed joining us as much as we enjoyed sharing the time with you. We'll be back again soon with another episode. Until then, please tell your friends about Running State of the Sport. We'd also appreciate a review at your favorite podcast host like Apple Podcasts or Spotify Podcasts. In signing off, here's our hope for the state of your own personal running. Chin up, clear eyes, full heart, keep moving, onward.